And Dan will give you a ton of detail on their success with Logic IO.
Great. Thanks, Chris. Hey, and by the way, I'm happy you've come out of retirement. You know, when Michael Jordan came out of retirement, he went on to win 3 more championships. And that's what you're doing here with Logic. You're winning championships. It's great to have you working with us on this, because we definitely have a need. What some of the cool technology you talked about, whether that's the headless architecture, the solving engine, the commerce logic engine. What I'm going to talk to the rest of you about today is why. Why does that matter to Keysight? So to do that, I've got to unpack a little bit of, well, what is the Keysight box? What are we? Where do we come from? Where are we headed? And so it might surprise some of you to learn that we actually are the original Hewlett-Packard. So we trace our heritage back to Bill Hewlett and Dave Packard and their focus on electronic measurement products way back from the 1930s. It wasn't until the 90s that we decided to split the company and have HP continue on the computer business, and everything that was not computer related become Agilent. Well, we repeated that same story in 2014 when Agilent stayed focused on life sciences solutions, and we spun off Keysight to become a standalone independent company focused on electronic measurement products. But we quickly decided that just focusing on those traditional products that we had for many years, very profitable, but not growing, we decided our focus actually is going to become a growth company, and a new strategy had to emerge to make that happen. And that strategy is concentrated around transitioning from these discrete physical hardware products to a software-centric solution strategy, one where we combine some of our leading-edge hardware and high-performance hardware with unique software combined with services bundled together and moving to the right of the value chain from not just providing hardware measurement and probes, which is still very important and critical to many of our customers, but giving more analysis and more insight and the ability for customers as they're innovating to do reporting and decision. We've even began to pivot into operations and optimizations and combining all this together. So shifting the product strategy to a solution strategy was the first change we made as we became independent in 2014. The second change we made was to think about what industries we wanted to focus on. So rather than just have a portfolio of products and then just build it and hope that everyone would come and use them, we decided let's concentrate on 6 markets. One was just general electronics as a market. Then the other 5 are listed here: commercial communications, semiconductors, automotive and energy, aerospace and defense, and then IoT. And so in these spaces, for example, commercial communications, that's everything from wireless to wired, from telecommunications to the backbones of hyperscaler cloud providers. Semiconductors, we're working with the leading edge semiconductor companies, taking us all down to the sub-nanometer transistor size. You know, we're working on 5 nanometer down to 1 nanometer and eventually past that. The automotive and energy, I'm going to double click on in a minute. Aerospace and defense has a lot of electronics and modernization efforts across that space, even working with organizations like NASA and their pursuit of the Orion spacecraft to help it safely pursue its goals. IoT, it's smart everything out there, everything's connected. And so these are the 5 markets that we've put a lot of energy into focusing on. But to illustrate the company strategy in action, let me double click on the automotive space and just in particular one segment. And by the way, automotive is one of our smaller but growing markets we focus on. But I want to illustrate why it's so important for us to be partnering with Salesforce and Logic. This is the example of the e-mobility ecosystem, basically the electrification of cars. And there's so many different components in this value chain, from the charging stations on the left to how they source their energy from the grid, to how they interact with the vehicle. Within the vehicle itself, a number of different components that really need to be designed, validated, and tested, to the source of those components and how they are properly manufactured. So when we look at that particular ecosystem and then we layer in and say, now what sort of problems are you as an automotive customer having, and how can we bring unique, complex products to combined with software and services to help solve your problem? And this slide illustrates around the ecosystem these various new products that we've brought to market. Each one of these products listed on this page has hundreds, if not thousands, of customer configurable options. And then when you combine that to these thousands of lines in the bill of materials for that product, the ability to dynamically configure for our sales teams, for even our customers to interact with, became an intractable problem. But just picture each one of these hundreds of options, and as customers configure and choose different standards that they would like to test and validate, choose different configurations, each one of those firing off different rules to tweak what are the different dependencies of the product. This just illustrates a handful of those products. Some of these products, by the way, are the size of a vehicle itself. Some are very small and are used within the vehicle to test. Each one of these very complicated in terms of its scope for what we needed to do. So thinking about the digital journey we are on, so that's the background of Keysight in terms of its strategy as a company. Again, moving from hardware products to software-centric solutions focused on fast-moving 5 markets for us. And when we think about our journey on the left, what we want to try to enable is a digitally enabled business outcome. We're trying to unify 2 things: the online customer experience, which really accelerated from the pandemic. We have a direct sales organization, very used to very in-person interactions, and we had to force ourselves to embrace an online customer engagement, as all of you had to embrace as well. But then internally, the operations from product development to the sales motion to the delivery of those ordered products to the ongoing service, because you don't just sell these once. They do take a lot of ongoing calibration, repair, and service to the value capture. That's an integrated value chain. We wanted to try to bring those 2 worlds together. And our previous architecture pictured on the right just was not going to scale. So this is what we inherited from Agilent when we spun off in 2014. It's very much monolithic systems in an on-prem architecture. That's not going to work for us, not going to cut it. So what we moved to was a cloud-first composable architecture. So you see the same goals on the left, those digitally enabled business outcomes, but where we're at today is one where our Oracle ERP still is the nucleus of our operation. So we still have that global monolithic system, but we've begun to skinny it down and skinny down that ERP. In particular, one of the things that we took out of the ERP was product configuration. We first started working with Chris when he was with Big Machines, and we took it out of our Oracle EBS system, partnered with Big Machines to stand up the CPQ system. And there was great excitement and enthusiasm from our sales organization, because until that point, their sales motion was show up at a customer, talk to them, take copious notes, go back, fill out an email, and send it to a configuration specialist. Because using Oracle ERP to do product configuration required like a PhD in product configuration. Days later, the sales team would finally get a quote back from those configuration specialists, days, and then say, all right, customer, is this what you were talking about? Invariably, the customer would say, yeah, but I'd like to tweak that one little option. Here we go again, repeat the cycle, days, turnaround time. So iteration number 2 or number 1 on our cloud-first composable architecture, take the configuration logic out of our ERP, use Big Machines, and our sales team cheering like crazy. We're going to get turnaround time within hours instead of days, and great fanfare and excitement. But as Chris talked about, the consumer performance experience that we all get on Amazon and other cloud providers is not hours. It's not even minutes. It could be microseconds to seconds. And so what became a very popular solution soon became unpopular as the sales organization demanded faster and faster turnaround time on these super complex configurations. In fact, just a few months ago, I was at our annual sales event, 1,500 direct sellers from our sales organization, all gathered in Las Vegas, first time in several years. But just picture a room of 1,500 people, and they know the CIO is in the audience, and the head of sales gets up, and the first thing he announces in the keynote address is that, ladies and gentlemen, we are moving to a new configurator engine. Round of applause. Everyone's cheering like crazy. We're going to get product configurations in seconds, not hours, like we've been dealing with. Amazing how productivity of the sales team is becoming so critical. So our composable architecture, the beauty of it is the ability to take pieces of it and quickly pivot and add new components to the architecture. And so that's what we did. We just went live with on our Salesforce Sales Cloud, integrated with Logic IO, and brought online the first batch of our products in the Logic Modern Configurator. So the objectives that we had was not just that sales productivity. You can see this, one of the third bullets there, driving selling productivity. And the sales team, it's fine if they think that that's what our driving force is all about, is to help them be more productive, because it is one of our goals. But we actually have a higher goal than that. We're trying to unify the online customer experience with the internal sales experience and bridge that divide, and trying to think about exposing to our customers through an e-commerce engine the complexity of our products and the complexity of configuration. In the previous platforms that we had, is never going to scale, never going to work for us. But now what we're planning to do, and have gone live with our first batch of products, it's equally, as Chris was mentioning, the single place to configure, both available to our internal sales team and our external customers. Because of the headless architecture, we can actually expose that to both online customers and internal sales teams, leveraging the exact same configuration engine. So that's what we've done, is united that. It's live at this point, with iterations to come of more products that we migrate into the Logic configuration engine. The previous state, as I was talking about, very complex, very slow. I talked a little bit about the pain points. We're live now, as I mentioned, with about 3,000 of our 9,000 products, with more to come. A lot of improvement in the user experience, both for the sales teams, but also in particular for my own team in IT. This is a amazingly more advanced system, and by advanced, not hard to use, easier to use. And in particular, developing some tools to help with the migration on the Force platform has been great. The other piece too is some of the improvements that we're making for what we call product configuration specialists. So every one of these products that we sell out of the R&D labs, there's a product configuration specialist whose job is to take all the different options and componentry and put that into the rules of the system. We have a whole group of people that have been tasked full time. That's what they do on our old configurator. And they've been trained up on this new platform. They find it significantly more efficient and easier for them to define those rules in terms of their configurations. And so for them, the maintenance part that Chris was talking about, true to form, it actually is so much easier for us to maintain, that we're expecting to be able to continue to scale and grow Keysight at the pace we've been growing without having to increase that organization that continues to do the product configurations. They're going to be able to increase their productivity pretty substantially at that point. In fact, just to share some of the performance improvements that we've seen, 40% reduction in the quoting time for our sellers, and that's just without much effort to optimize the performance. Our main focus has just been transition to the new platform. And immediately we're already seeing 40% improvement for the frontline sellers that are using the system. We had not exposed our product configuration engine to our external customers because it was just too slow. It's already live and exposed, and customers are interacting with it real time. But for the maintenance side, 80% reduction that we see, that's a combination of the IT team that manages the systems and those product configuration specialists who write the rules for our product configurations. So right now, they would be quick to say we have not had a reduction in our effort because they're in the process of migrating all of their configurations. But they can see light at the end of the tunnel, so that once they finish the migration to the new system, they're kind of asking, well, now what? Now what do we work on? Well, in particular, Keysight's been an acquisitive company. We've been in an acquiring spree and acquiring companies and integrating them into our core systems. Every time we would acquire a company, these product configuration specialists would have to pause what they were working on in terms of new product introductions, pivot over to work on the complex data entry of the configurations for the acquired company's products as they moved into our architecture. Now we are able to actually continue to do new product introductions at the same time organically as we add more acquired companies into our portfolio. So it's just going to enable us to accelerate our growth as a company for our customers. So that's a quick snapshot, a lot that I covered in terms of our heritage, where we've been, the background we've been through. why we're working with both Salesforce and Logic that in that composable architecture, unifying the online customer experience with the internal operations to a consumer grade level of digital experience that everyone's come to expect these days, and making some progress there. Now, I know we've gotten some questions coming in, so let me turn it over to our next speaker, and then I look forward to getting some questions thrown my way so I can add some more light and color to our Salesforce and Logic journey.